I think that the leadership management dichotomy is a bunch of bullshit, actually. I think that at least the way that people talked about leadership often in the academic literature over the last, couple of decades, it's very dangerous. The way leadership is threatens to become the bullshitters who never do anything, and then the managers become the sort of small-minded grunts who execute orders, right? And it's not very flattering to either side. So I don't think it's actually a very useful dichotomy. But I will say that there are things that do scale. There's sort of a type of communication that does scale that is not management. And so I guess if I had to draw a distinction, which I would be reluctant to do, I would say that management is the relationship part. It's very important, and it's at a human level very satisfying, but it doesn't scale. The leadership stuff is the stuff that can scale, that you don't have to do one-on-one. As a CEO, you do manage people. You have a team of people who report directly to you, and that team of people is going to have an enormous impact on the company. And so making sure that you're developing a trusting relationship with those people is going to be crucial to keeping the company on an even keel. Making sure that you're giving those people feedback and that you're getting feedback from those people on a regular basis is just as important for the CEO to do as it is for somebody who's just become a manager. Making sure that you're not telling those people what to do, but that you're all lined up going in the same direction, incredibly important, because it's so destructive to the company if a CEO's direct reports are all pulling in different directions. That makes for misery in a company. Really important, more important for the CEO to make sure the right people are in her boat or in his boat, as just more important there than at any other level of the company. The direct reports of the CEO are going to have an enormous impact on the company. So making sure as the CEO that you are constantly upgrading your team, pushing your people to do better work. If a direct report of a CEO is subpar and everybody sees it, mediocrity is going to spring up like mushrooms at that company. So all the management stuff that I talk about, I think it's more important for the CEO to do than anybody else at the company. CEO has a lot of other responsibilities as well, but it's a big part of the job. I believe that a startup needs management when there's more than 20 people. Up to 20 people, it can be pretty loosey-goosey. But after 20, even in an early stage, I don't know if you need management, but you certainly need to give each other feedback, right? You certainly need to figure out what your direction is, and you certainly need to think about how you're building the team and what roles people are playing. Do you need to assign managers when you're less than 20 people? No, but you still need to do the things that managers do when you're less than 20 people. With my coaching, I focus on management. Management is actually what interests me. Developing those relationships that help people do the best work of their lives. My coaching, I focus on feedback. I focus on sort of organizational design. How do you think about structuring your team? I work with people on how do you think about the people you have on your team and how to develop them. So feedback team, and then how do you coalesce people around a particular direction without telling them what to do. And then there's a whole host of other things that come up. I mean, I think the role of being a manager, whether you're a CEO or a recent manager, it's lonely. And there's a lot of things that are inappropriate to talk to the people on your team about that you don't really want to bring home. So all kinds of stuff comes up, and I'm there to be the person's friend, like the thing that doesn't scale. What do managers do? It's very tempting to think they do nothing. When I started Juice, I was in this sort of complicated sort of psychological state where part of the reason why I started Juice was that I hated having a boss. And so I was in this, you hate the man, you are the man, you hate the man, you are the man. You are definitely, well, the woman in my case. And so what do managers do? I think there's, I'm going to answer it in two different ways. Part of what they do at the most abstract, but also the most fundamental and most important level, part of what they do is that they give a damn about their people, but they don't give a damn about whether their people like them. And that's a hard thing to do. So that's sort of the meta level. The three things that they do are they give and get feedback in impromptu ways and informal ways. They don't tell people what to do. Telling people what to do doesn't work, ever. No matter how powerful you are, telling people what to do doesn't work. Bill Clinton said of being the president of the United States that it was a lot like being the overseer of a cemetery. A lot of people under you, nobody listening, right? You will never be powerful enough for telling people what to do to work. What you have to do is you have to create a process in which direction gets set, but everybody participates in that direction. And then you sort of enhance your team. It sounds harsh to say, but you upgrade your team. That doesn't mean you fire the bad people and you hire better people, although that's part of it. But you help the team grow, and you make sure that 1 + 1 + 1 = 30 and not 3. When I have taught management at a number of different places, one of the questions that I ask is, and the first thing of the class is, tell me about the best manager you ever had and the worst manager you ever had. And I really encourage people to show, don't tell. Tell the story. Like, what did the manager do that was so awful? For example, one of the worst managers I ever had, and I'm actually very grateful to this person because he made me think a lot about management, and he made me care more about management. He made me interested in it. But it was time to do a layoff, and this guy, instead of coming and talking to the people himself, basically sent in one of these paid jerks to do it. And I just found it so cowardly that he wouldn't give the message himself. That it really made me think. And sort of one of the best managers I ever had was somebody who made me realize that I could do things I never thought I could do. So there's a lot of different ways to think about good manager, bad manager. I actually think stories are the best way to answer the question. But basically, I'll go back to what managers do. Good managers care about their people, but they don't worry about winning the popularity contest with their people. They care about doing the right thing. Bad managers, try to get people to think their job is to manage other people's moods or something, and they wind up creating a political situation, whether they mean to or not. Good managers give frequent impromptu feedback, both on the praise and the criticism, and they also ask for frequent impromptu. Bad managers just sort of sit in their office and say nothing, right? They don't engage in that way. Good managers pull out of the team what the team wants to do, and they provide the constraints. They don't just let chaos reign, and they make sure everybody's on the same page. Bad managers come in and just tell people what to do. And then the other thing that great managers do is they keep up-leveling the caliber of the team. That means helping people to do great work and then do it even better. And it also means bringing in new talent, and it also means helping people who are not a fit or who are not good at the job to leave and find jobs where they are good. Bad managers just let problems fester, let bad employees hang around for a long time, let their top employees carry their worst employees on their back. I think that whether you're managing an organization of 20 people or 200 people or 2,000 or 20,000 or 200,000, the way that you manage your team is not radically different. As you start to manage larger organizations, as you start to lead larger organizations, you need to figure out how not to just manage your people, but also to connect with the people who are under the people who work for you. So when you're managing managers, and when you're managing managers, you need to do several things that you don't have to do if you're just managing people, individual contributors. One, you need to be very conscious of not creating Dilbertville with layers. You need to work really hard to defy the gravitational pull of organizational mediocrity. And that means going deep occasionally into the organization, going deep into a problem that interests you. I think Steve Jobs was probably the master at this, of, focusing on the drywall in a store that just opened, figuring out, how to print business cards. I mean, the small details he would get involved in were quite remarkable. So I think you need to be able to do that. You also need to meet with people who are, you need to meet with the people who work for the people who work for you, right? So it sounds very hierarchical, but a skip level meeting or whatever you want to call it, without the manager in the room. So you need to you need to figure out a way to identify the bad managers, because a bad manager is making 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 60 people's lives horrible. Another thing you can do and then when you have a skip level meeting, you need to make sure that the people who are in the meeting understand that you're trying to give feedback that's going to help this manager improve, right? And you need to project the notes. I have a lot written on how to have a productive skip level meeting, because they can become very political very quickly. I think when you're managing managers, it's important always, but especially as organizations get bigger, you need to require joint escalation. Don't let Bob come to you and complain about Sue. When Bob comes to you complaining about, go work it out with Sue. If you can't work it out, you both come to me and I'll help you resolve it. You don't want to abdicate, but you don't want to get in the position of having to arbitrate and referee fights, because then every time somebody is having a one-on-one with you, everybody else will wonder, if they're talking smack about them. So you've got to be very careful of the kind of political climate that you're creating or not creating by the things you do. I think it's very important as the organization gets bigger to walk around and notice the little things that you see, and to talk to somebody who you don't know that well and ask them what they're working on, just to get the pulse of an organization. And as there's more people, there's more demands on your time, it's hard. You have to schedule that walk around time. Don't wait for a free hour, because you will never have one. You have to schedule it. So those are some of the things that I have found to be important as the organizations grow that may not be as important with a smaller organization.